Donald Trump has once again revealed a disturbing truth about his political ambitions. And this time he did not even try to hide it. For years, critics have accused him of lying about nearly everything, from the strength of the economy to the effectiveness of his policies, from the scale of immigration to the behavior of protesters, and from the reality of tariffs to the role of the media. But while Trump continues to mislead the public on almost every major issue, there is one area where he has been surprisingly honest: his intent to reshape elections in a way that guarantees long-term Republican dominance. This week, after Texas Republicans passed heavily gerrymandered congressional maps, Trump took to his platform, Truth Social, to openly cheer for the move. He encouraged Republicans across the country to follow Texas's example, combining extreme gerrymandering with a push to eliminate mail-in voting. In Trump's own words, if Republicans do these two things, the party could pick up 100 seats in the 2026 midterms. According to him, this would mark the end of what he calls the crooked game of politics. The reality, however, is very different. What Trump describes as the end of crooked politics is in fact the beginning of a far more dangerous era. His words expose a plan that threatens not only fair elections, but also the foundation of American democracy. And as history shows, this plan is built on flawed logic that could backfire spectacularly. Gerrymandering and its consequences. Gerrymandering, the practice of redrawing district lines to favor one political party, has long been controversial in American politics. Both parties have used it, but in recent years Republicans have taken it to extremes in states like Texas, Florida, and North Carolina. By manipulating district boundaries, they attempt to maximize their chances of winning more seats than their share of the vote would normally allow. Texas's new districts are a prime example. Designed to strengthen Republican control, they may instead create as many as 10 competitive swing districts. Political analysts have already noted that this overreach could backfire, leaving Republicans vulnerable in areas that were previously considered safe. In their rush to secure permanent power, the party may have unintentionally set the stage for greater Democratic gains. The attack on mail-in voting. Alongside gerrymandering, Trump has once again revived his attack on mail-in voting. He claims, without evidence, that mail-in ballots are a scam and a source of widespread fraud. In reality, numerous studies and investigations, including those led by Republican officials, have shown that voter fraud in the United States is extremely rare. Moreover, almost every proven case of voter fraud in recent elections has been linked to Republican voters, not Democrats. What makes Trump's position especially puzzling is that mail-in voting has historically benefited Republicans. Older voters, who lean conservative, rely on absentee and mail-in ballots more than any other demographic. By restricting this option, Trump and his allies risk disenfranchising millions of their own supporters. The 2020 election provided a clear lesson. When Trump tried to undermine the Postal Service by installing Louis DeJoy as Postmaster General and slowing down mail delivery, the result was not a Democratic loss but a Democratic surge. Delays in processing mail-in ballots did not stop voters from casting them. And in the end, Republicans lost crucial Senate seats in Georgia, giving Democrats control of the Senate. A strategy doomed to fail. Trump's insistence on banning mail-in voting reflects both his obsession with conspiracy theories and his inability to learn from past mistakes. By promoting policies that could suppress turnout among their own base, Republicans risk repeating the same errors that cost them in 2020. Furthermore, Trump's call for Republican-led states to ban mail-in voting exposes the limits of his strategy. Even if states like Texas, Florida, and Indiana impose restrictions, these are already Republican strongholds. Eliminating mail-in ballots there would not flip Democratic districts red. It would only reduce Republican turnout in areas where older conservative voters depend on absentee ballots. At best, the strategy changes nothing. At worst, it creates opportunities for Democrats in newly competitive districts. The bigger picture: Trump's authoritarian ambitions. Beyond the tactical flaws, Trump's message reveals something far more troubling: a willingness to undermine democracy itself. By openly admitting that his goal is not to win elections fairly, but to manipulate the system in his party's favor, Trump is signaling that he values power over principle. This is not a new theme for him. Throughout his presidency, he repeatedly questioned the legitimacy of elections, attacked the press, and sought to weaken institutions that hold leaders accountable. His refusal to accept the results of the 2020 election culminated in the January 6th attack on the U.S. Capitol, an event that demonstrated how dangerous his rhetoric can be. Now, by promoting gerrymandering and attacking mail-in voting, Trump is laying the groundwork for a long-term strategy to entrench Republican power, regardless of what the voters actually want. The irony of Trump's plan. Ironically, Trump's strategy may deliver the opposite of what he promises. If Republicans eliminate mail-in voting in red states, they could suppress millions of their own votes. If they gerrymander districts too aggressively, they could unintentionally create more competitive races that Democrats are capable of winning. In the end, what Trump describes as a master plan to pick up 100 seats may prove to be nothing more than another overconfident miscalculation. His plan is not only morally wrong and legally questionable, but also strategically foolish. Conclusion: Donald Trump's recent statements are both revealing and alarming. For once, he is being honest, not about his health, his record, or the economy, but about his determination to manipulate elections. His embrace of gerrymandering and his attacks on mail-in voting reflect a dangerous authoritarian mindset, one that seeks to tilt the system permanently in favor of one party. Yet history suggests that this strategy is unlikely to succeed. Instead of strengthening Republicans, it could weaken them by alienating voters and reducing turnout among their strongest supporters. As the country heads toward the 2026 midterms, Trump's words should serve as a warning. Democracy depends on fair elections, and any attempt to undermine that principle is a threat not only to one party but to the nation itself. The more Trump speaks openly about his intentions, the clearer it becomes. His vision for America is not one of free choice and open democracy, but of rigged rules and permanent power. Donald Trump has finally admitted the truth, and it's not the kind of truth any American should celebrate. For years, he has lied about the economy, lied about immigration, lied about tariffs, lied about crime, and lied about his own health. But now he's being brutally honest about one thing. He wants Republicans to rig elections for decades to come. That's right. After Texas Republicans forced through a set of outrageously gerrymandered districts, Trump jumped on Truth Social to declare victory. He wasn't shy about it. He bragged that if Republicans gerrymander aggressively enough and eliminate mail-in voting, they could pick up 100 seats in the 2026 midterms. According to him, this would end the so-called crooked game of politics. Let's be clear, this is not ending the game. This is cheating at the game. It is a direct attack on democracy, carried out in broad daylight by a man who has made a career out of undermining truth, institutions, and trust in the American system. The lie of gerrymandering. Trump loves gerrymandering because it's the ultimate shortcut to power. Forget winning hearts and minds. Forget persuading voters. Just redraw the map so you can't lose. Texas Republicans tried it, carving up the state into districts designed to guarantee Republican wins. But here's the kicker. Political analysts are already warning that the Texas map could backfire. By overreaching, they've actually created nearly 10 competitive swing districts, seats that Democrats could potentially win. That's the problem with power grabs. Sometimes you grab too hard and end up losing control. The war on mail-in voting. And then comes Trump's obsession with mail-in ballots. He's called them a scam, a fraud, a plot against Republicans. But here's the truth. Fraud in mail-in voting is virtually non-existent. And when it does happen, it's Republicans, not Democrats, who get caught. Even worse for Trump, mail-in voting actually helps Republicans. Older Americans, who make up one of the GOP's strongest voting blocs, rely heavily on absentee ballots. If Republicans eliminate that option, they're not hurting Democrats, they're sabotaging themselves. Need proof? Look at 2020. Trump installed Louis DeJoy at the Postal Service, intentionally slowed down mail delivery, and tried to choke off mail-in ballots. And what happened? Republicans didn't win. They lost badly. Democrats flipped crucial Senate seats in Georgia, giving them control of Congress. The very scheme Trump thought would help him ended up destroying his own party's chances. But has Trump learned his lesson? Absolutely not. He's doubling down on the same failed strategy. Trump's authoritarian playbook. This is bigger than gerrymandering or ballots. This is about power, permanent, unchecked authoritarian power. Trump is openly saying the quiet part out loud. That Republicans don't need to win fairly, they just need to rig the system so Democrats can't compete. That's not democracy. That's dictatorship in disguise. It's a rigged casino where the House always wins, no matter what the players do. And the American people are supposed to just accept it. Trump has always despised losing. He couldn't accept defeat in 2020. He spread lies about voter fraud, incited a mob to storm the Capitol, and nearly broke the system in half. Now, instead of learning humility, he's plotting the next stage. Reshape the rules so losing is impossible. But here's the irony. His strategy is so sloppy and self-destructive that it could easily implode. The backfire effect. Think about it. If red states like Texas, Florida, and Indiana ban mail-in ballots, who does that hurt most? Not Democrats in urban centers. It hurts elderly Republicans in retirement communities who depend on vote by mail. These are Trump's people, and they'll be the ones cut off by the very rules he's cheering for. Meanwhile, Democrats are organizing, mobilizing, and finding new ways to reach voters. The harder Republicans squeeze, the more resistance they create. The bigger danger. Of course, the real danger isn't that Trump's plan might backfire. The real danger is that millions of Americans are being conditioned to accept cheating as normal. Trump isn't whispering his strategy in secret meetings. He's broadcasting it to the nation. He's saying, "We're going to rig the game, and there's nothing you can do about it." This is a dangerous normalization of authoritarianism. And if Americans don't push back, the country risks losing the very foundation of its democracy, free and fair elections. Conclusion. Donald Trump's gerrymandering and mail-in voting strategy isn't just reckless. It's suicidal for his own party and catastrophic for the nation. He is trying to build a system where Republicans can't lose, even if the majority of voters reject them. But history has shown time and again that Trump's schemes backfire. He sabotaged mail-in ballots in 2020 and lost. He pushed extreme candidates in 2022 and lost again. And now he's setting up yet another disaster for 2026. Trump wants Americans to believe he's a genius strategist. In reality, he's just a desperate man trying to hold on to power by destroying the very democracy he once swore to defend. And that is not leadership. That is betrayal. Donald Trump's recent statements about elections provide a rare moment of clarity into his political mindset. While he continues to mislead the public on issues such as the economy, immigration, and crime, he has been unusually candid about one objective: reshaping the American electoral system to secure long-term Republican dominance. Following the passage of new gerrymandered districts in Texas, Trump used his Truth Social platform to argue that Republicans could gain as many as 100 congressional seats in the 2026 midterms if two conditions are met: widespread gerrymandering and the elimination of mail-in voting. His prediction, however, overlooks both the practical limitations of state authority and the unintended consequences of such a strategy. Understanding gerrymandering. Gerrymandering has been a feature of American politics for centuries, but its intensity has increased in the modern era due to advanced mapping technology and partisan polarization. In Texas, the new maps were designed to maximize Republican representation by packing Democratic voters into a limited number of districts while spreading Republican voters across the remainder. The flaw in this approach lies in its precision. Overly aggressive gerrymanders can inadvertently create districts that are more competitive than intended. In fact, analysts suggest that the Texas maps may have established up to 10 districts that could lean Democratic under favorable conditions. Thus, while the intent was to secure Republican dominance, the outcome may be the opposite. The mail-in voting debate. Trump's second proposal, eliminating mail-in voting, is equally problematic. His claim that mail-in ballots are a source of widespread fraud has been consistently disproven. Studies across multiple states have found that voter fraud rates remain below 0.01%, making it statistically insignificant. Moreover, nearly all recent confirmed cases involved Republican voters. Beyond the lack of evidence, Trump's proposal also misunderstands voting demographics. Mail-in voting is most heavily utilized by older Americans, a demographic that skews Republican. Restricting this option would therefore risk reducing turnout among a key Republican constituency. The 2020 election offers a relevant case study. Trump attempted to undermine mail-in voting by slowing the postal system through his appointee, Postmaster General Louis DeJoy. This effort not only failed, Donald
but
Trump's
contributed
recent
to Democratic
about
victories,
elections provide a
including
rare
Senate
moment of
runoffs in
clarity
Georgia
into
his
handed
political
control of
mindset.
Congress to the Democratic
While
Party.
he continues to
Strategic
mislead the
and legal
public on
barriers.
issues such
Trump's
as the
strategy
economy,
also faces
immigration,
practical
and crime,
limitations.
he has
While
been
state
unusually
legislatures
candid
in
about
Republican-controlled
one
states may seek to restrict
reshaping the
mail-in
American
voting,
electoral
federal
system
law and
to
judicial
secure
review
long-term
impose
Republican
constraints.
dominance.
Additionally,
Following
eliminating
the
the
passage
passage
of
of
new
new
solidly
gerrymandered
Republican
districts in
states
Texas
does not alter the balance
Trump
of power
used his
at the
Truth
national
Social
level.
platform
The
to
electoral
argue that
gains Trump
Republicans
envisions
could
are
gain as
therefore
many as
mathematically
100 congressional
unrealistic.
seats
The
in the
broader
2026
implications
midterms.
Trump's
if two
openness about
conditions
using
are met.
gerrymandering and voting
Widespread
restrictions underscores a
gerrymandering
deeper
and
trend:
the elimination of
the erosion
mail-in
of
voting.
democratic norms.
His prediction,
Historically,
however,
American
overlooks
leaders
both
have justified
practical
election
limitations
reforms
of
as
state
efforts to
authority
increase fairness
and
or
the
efficiency,
unintended consequences
even when the real
of
motive
such
was
strategy.
partisan.
Trump,
Understanding
however, dispenses
gerrymandering.
with this pretense.
Gerrymandering
He
has
openly
been a feature
encouraging
of
manipulation
American
of the
politics
system
for
to guarantee
centuries,
outcomes
but
favorable
its
to his
intensity
party.
has
This
increased
shift
in the
has
modern
significant
era
implications.
due to advanced
When leaders
mapping
normalize the
technology
idea that
and
elections
partisan
can be engineered
polarization.
rather than won,
In Texas,
public trust
the new
in
maps
democratic
were designed to
institutions declines.
maximize Republican
The events of January
representation
6th,
by
2021,
packing Democratic
demonstrated
voters
the dangers
into
of
a
such
limited number
distrust,
of districts,
as thousands of
while
Trump
spreading
supporters stormed
Republican
the Capitol
voters
in
across
response
the
to his
remainder.
baseless claims of fraud.
The flaw in this
The likely
approach
outcome,
lies in its
despite
precision.
Trump's confidence,
Overly
his plan
aggressive
is unlikely to
gerrymanders
succeed.
can inadvertently
Gerrymandering
create
remains
districts
vulnerable
that
to
are more
judicial
competitive
challenges
than
and
intended.
demographic trends
In
continue
fact,
to favor
analysts
Democrats
suggest
in
that the
urban and
Texas
suburban
maps
areas.
may have established
Eliminating
up to 10
mail-in
districts
voting in red
that could
states
lean
risks
Democratic
alienating
under
older
favorable
Republican
conditions,
voters,
potentially
Thus,
reducing
while the
turnout
intent
in
was to
critical
secure
districts.
Republican
In
dominance,
short, while Trump's
the outcome
proposals
may be the
represent a
opposite.
serious threat to
The mail-in
democratic
voting
integrity,
debate,
their practical
Trump's second
effectiveness
proposal,
is doubtful.
eliminating
Rather than
mail-in
securing
voting,
long-term
is
dominance,
equally
they
problematic.
may further weaken the Republican
His claim
Party's
that mail-in
electoral
ballots
prospects.
are a source
Conclusion:
of widespread fraud.
Donald
has
Trump's
been
recent
consistently
remarks provide a
disproven.
revealing look into
Studies
his political
across
strategy.
multiple states
By
have
advocating
found that
gerrymandering
voter fraud
and the
rates
elimination of
remain
mail-in
below
voting,
0.01%.
he is not merely promoting partisan advantage,
making it
but openly
statistically
endorsing tactics
insignificant.
that undermine democratic
Moreover,
principles.
nearly all
Yet the
recent
flaws in his
confirmed
approach,
cases
both
involved
strategic and
Republican
demographic,
voters,
suggest that
beyond
these
the
efforts
lack
may
of
fail.
evidence.
More
Trump's
importantly,
proposal
they
also
highlight the urgent need to
misunderstands
defend the
voting
institutions and
demographics.
practices that
Mail-in
make democracy
voting is
possible.
most heavily
Trump may
utilized
believe
by
he has
older
found a path to
Americans,
permanent power,
a demographic
but in reality,
that skews
he is
Republican.
exposing the vulnerabilities
Restricting
of
this
his own
option
party.
would therefore
The American
risk
electorate
reducing
has
turnout
repeatedly
among
shown
a key
resilience
Republican
against such tactics,
constituency.
and history
The
indicates
2020
that schemes
election
built on
offers a
undermining
relevant
democracy
case
are
study.
destined to collapse.
Trump attempted to undermine mail-in voting by slowing the postal system through his appointee, Postmaster General Louis DeJoy. This effort not only failed but may have contributed to Democratic victories, including Senate runoffs in Georgia that handed control of Congress to the Democratic Party. Strategic and legal barriers. Trump's strategy also faces practical limitations. While state legislatures in Republican-controlled states may seek to restrict mail-in voting, federal law and judicial review impose constraints. Additionally, eliminating mail-in voting in solidly Republican states does not alter the balance of power at the national level. The electoral gains Trump envisions are therefore mathematically unrealistic. The broader implications. Trump's openness about using gerrymandering and voting restrictions underscores a deeper trend: the erosion of democratic norms. Historically, American leaders have justified election reforms as efforts to increase fairness or efficiency, even when the real motives were partisan. Trump, however, dispenses with this pretense. He is openly encouraging manipulation of the system to guarantee outcomes favorable to his party. This shift has significant implications. When leaders normalize the idea that elections can be engineered rather than won, public trust in democratic institutions declines. The events of January 6, 2021, demonstrated the dangers of such distrust, as thousands of Trump supporters stormed the Capitol in response to his baseless claims of fraud. The likely outcome. Despite Trump's confidence, his plan is unlikely to succeed. Gerrymandering remains vulnerable to judicial challenges, and demographic trends continue to favor Democrats in urban and suburban areas. Eliminating mail-in voting in red states risks alienating older Republican voters, potentially reducing turnout in critical districts. In short, while Trump's proposals represent a serious threat to democratic integrity, their practical effectiveness is doubtful. Rather than securing long-term dominance, they may further weaken the Republican Party's electoral prospects. Conclusion. Donald Trump's recent remarks provide a revealing look into his political strategy. By advocating gerrymandering and the elimination of mail-in voting, he is not merely promoting partisan advantage, but openly endorsing tactics that undermine democratic principles. Yet the flaws in his approach, both strategic and demographic, suggest that these efforts may fail. More importantly, they highlight the urgent need to defend the institutions and practices that make democracy possible. Trump may believe he has found a path to permanent power, but in reality, he is exposing the vulnerabilities of his own party. The American electorate has repeatedly shown resilience against such tactics, and history indicates that schemes built on undermining democracy are destined to collapse.